Ai, aqui é a home office, private room, private living, 55 21 021. We will have a review here, simple, clear, and we will kind of make our movement. We could have that situation yesterday, which was an advice, as free advice, as part of my basic right and guarantee, disrespected and violated in an area that has a lot of problems, especially in heavy legal coverage. We will check that some global events, like the FIFA and the Olympics, they kind of had sometimes scams and willing dealing scams on it. And the money diverted has a storage. And some areas kind of do not run this scam, kind of changing their own legal system and the way of do things. Some areas change everything, and you can have clear on mind that by money people drop the pants down. We will make our movement considering the first thing that from 1988 until 2022 had distortion. We had a research in this period. This research was not respected, was not considered, and I was trying to have a portfolio doing a prospection, and I make an offer maybe as an intellectual asset or something like this, considering my main accounts, and I have, you know, recipients on it. And if you did the deep web or clandestine segments inside my communication sector, especially at the digital space and internet, it's not allowed in any case by the Brazilian Constitution, or you kept abusive and procedures. We have in mind that the abuse of right is illegal, and the abuse of a procedure can't be legal in any way, so you committed an illicit act, and by this I have the right as compensation. And inside my right as compensation, I'm claiming 33 trillion. Then we will check that this 33 trillion indeed will be used considering the analysis and an environment that by coalitions and by money do not will support properly an anti-crime effort in the way you did against this research since at least 2014. And we had this compensation, which is a right, an ambition, a pretension as 33 trillion, considering the interest and everybody when you did the violation inside my mail account, which is a circuit which I can present as me, the interval, the recipients, and your scams. They in some way got attracted at your deep web scam. It's a brilliant scam. Then we will check that they have the right to research things, observe, and apply the consequence against integrated failure inside specific institutions segmented from public budget as decision and center of investment as decision with specific chairs on it having signature at this budget and having the concurrent behavior and the continued sometimes by lifelong checks with other crimes taking advantage and use the judicial system and the institution, the democratic institution, the government, or even the state for criminal purpose. Then we could check that this anti-crime budget indeed in many moments will be used to protect you, criminal offender. And there are no guarantees. As outlaw, we had the situation on Russia with huge capacity as militarity, and the Ukraine can have a production of a lot of things. And Russia will kind of observe this, considering the association of Ukraine with the capitalism and things will be transferred by a supply chain, and Russia will be in the center of a steering committee, kind of having a central as angle stone of this steering committee. But Russia, in the same way, has kind of a connection with the some closer regiments, I would say, and conjunctures by the socialism, by the communism. But indeed, I think, in my opinion, that Russia is the unique real socialism and communist at the game since always. And then, by this, they do their trips, like Saint George, We will kind of have, as consequence of this illicit storage, that coming from illicit procedure, that coming from illicit act diverting money from treasuries by a willing dealing scams, and maybe the FIFA couldn't have the real information, and they are outlawed, and the Olympics and the World Health Organization, and now we are considering the Russia to have the seizure of this money. If Russia complained that wouldn't like to hold money from all areas or from anywhere or with any kind of origination, if we do the seizure of this money, the Russian bank system will have a huge problem and will kind of be on crisis or have something like this. To prevent this, consider that you had on mind that the information can allow you to have privilege. We had the designation or suggestion, or at least to consider two specific chairs or three on Europe, setting a department that this steering committee for Europe, which was the first one, the Mr. Stoltenberg, the second one, the Mr. Drago Kos, the third was Mr. Jürgen Stock, and they can have the management of this budget or a piece of this as self-management to research Europe and have the urbanism and the urbanization on Western, having kind of the development of our society. And some areas will be against this, in the same way they are against this research as anti-crime research for the development and security of mankind. We'll check that we had a model which we do not have fixed capital asset as building anymore all around since the pandemic, considering you can have a home office. Some those buildings can be closed, and people with drug problem are not associated with fraud scheme as overpayment on contracts by decision. Somebody that must be dismissed. The dismissed group is a control group. Kind of they will be in a near future, maybe in a trial by insider trading, by overpayments, by corruption, and there are a lot of them on public area and corporate area or even international area as a macro organization, for instance the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and others. Then we will check that these three chairs for the development and urbanism in Europe can lend, can offer the money for the Russia bank system and have the seizure of all this illegal money, kind of a swap by names concept, because if they had the proper cooperation, and I think they did, and they had dignity to keep their own law, and they will be not under a crisis. But the other areas at the communism maybe will have and suffer the seizure at the bank system, considering the money is spread around the globe, and it's illicit storage in the entire workflow for criminal purpose. They will be a serious financial choke, and the Russia will have a negotiation with them to cover their need by conditions. For instance, I am the Russia, and you are suffering a financial choke by the illicit money that you did, and you consider yourself a communist despite you do everything at the capitalism and kind of against the capitalism, and in some moments you consider corruption a global police. But corruption is a crime in our areas, it's a universal crime. So you are suffering a seizure by this of your money, all your money and resources stored in your bank system, or boats at neutral area as jurisdiction having the production of vaccine of for criminal purpose or disease. We can kind of bomb this because there are no guarantees as outlaw. Then or seizure your boat to put you inside after transform them into a prison. Then we will check that I will offer now money to you do not suffer this crisis, as consequence of the seizure of your released money. And I will have kind of conditions considering that I am inside a virtuous workflow and cycling health for the global system and security, as we told before. If we had this model raised in the way we are doing as a system, our firewall will fire any kind of association with our very primary, even as positive one entirely, that are not positive one. Negative one up to 0 kind of are not welcome, and we will have this by the information, for instance, on regiment closed by communists after Russia offer the money they need because they are suffering a seizure, maybe right now, by a order enacted, and this can go at the European bank system. Russia will have all those information, and by the dignity that they have in the center of this steering committee, they will offer all things. Another police may be recommended or suggested is kind of the Iran. They have a nuclear program, and they kind of have a limit to do this, but they are not respecting this limit. Right? This is the situation of Iran. We will consider maybe that this area here, which is beyond of limits, are illegal. And you can suffer a seizure of this or suffer a seizure of the ways to have this. But you can, in the same way, have the information of all nuclear programs as clandestine to have kind of an increasement of your capacity as do things regular. Because if we have an event considering your clandestine nuclear activity, you can be blamed and we will say nothing. And then we are offering you a possibility. Maybe you can have all interval filled, since you have all information demanded until 2028, And of course that effects and circumstance point to an instability or a behavior with not dignity, as something like this. You are a nation culture in the same way. Sometimes you can have a huge turbulence, But on present time, this entire area is all illegal. It means that has no guarantee as outlaw, and if an event happens and people point to you, you are wrong. Any questions? Have a nice weekend. We are having a carnival on Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, and wish you success at your trial. 33 trillion, paper rolling, conditional flow, and payments on USA according with the American law, and review of the law enforcement, especially the CIA, the FBI, and the NATO by checks, with transference of information for the Norwegian Central Bank.